Very well known as the sky god, Zeus was the almighty ruler of Mount Olympus and the pantheon of gods who resided in heaven. He was the god upholding law, justice, and morals in the Old Greece. According to Greek mythology, Zeus was the lord of the heaven, the rain god and the cloud gatherer, the greatest deity of the ancient Greeks. On Mount Olympus he ruled supreme. On earth, he was said to cause phenomena such as weather turnovers. He ruled the clouds, rain, thunder and especially delivered lightning. Zeus was the strongest among the deities, who wielded the awful thunderbolt, his invincible weapon. He intervened in the lives of men and women, in the same sense that he was said to determine the outcome of battles. The Greek god Zeus was the son of the Titans Cronus and Rhea, and had to fight for the rights of his power. It was foretold that one of Chronos's sons would dethrone him, thus in the attempt to prevent this, Chronos swallowed his children at birth. Before the Titan could swallow his last child, his wife Rhea fled to a cave on the Isle of Crete, where she secretly gave birth to Zeus and left him to be raised by the nymphs. When Rhea returned to Chronos, she gave him a disguised stone to swallow in place of the last child. Zeus was thus spared the fate of his brothers and sisters and grew to maturity on the island of Crete. When the god was old enough, with his mother's help, he later succeeded on having his father to disgorge his other children. In some other versions of the myth, Zeus asked the goddess Metis for help against his father. She provided him with a potion that induced Chronos to throw up, therefore made it possible for all the children he had swallowed to be reborn. After the 5 siblings had regained freedom, alongside with Zeus, they engaged in the Titanomachy, the extended war between the Olympian gods and the Titans, an ancient race of gods ruled by his father, Chronos. And eventually, Zeus fulfilled a prophecy that he would succeed his father. He became the ruler of heaven and banished the Titans and his father to the lowest level of existence, right below the underworld. But, to achieve this victory, he released from Tartarus the 100-handed ones, known as the Hecatonchires, and the Cyclops who fashioned Zeus's thunderbolts, Hades' helm of invisibility, and Poseidon's trident. Zeus then persuaded them to participate in the war, fighting alongside with him and the Olympians. And later on, were given for final mission to guard the Titans, consigned in Tartarus by the god himself. Having achieved supremacy at the end of this war, the original 6 Olympians of the myth established their respective domains of authority. Once Zeus had control, him and his siblings divided the universe among them. Among the 3 brothers, Hades claimed the underworld, Poseidon took over the seas, and Zeus became the lord of the heavens and was also given overall control of the universe. Among goddesses, Demeter ruled over fertility, Hera took marriage, and Hestia reigned over the home and hearth. Zeus led the pantheon of the 12 Greek gods. His official consort was his sister Hera, he was a universal deity and through him comes all mortal sovereignty. He earned the finest and most opulent sanctuaries throughout the Greek civilization. According to some traditions, he lived on the mountain in Thessaly, which came to be known as Olympus and where the storm clouds were said to gather. At the gates of his palace remained 2 jars, one containing good and the other containing evil. Therefore, it was said that Zeus shaped the characters of men and women by controlling whether they were predominantly good or evil. When a mortal was born, the god usually gave them a little from each jar, but occasionally he handed out only one of these attributes, which would result in a person being entirely good or completely evil. Zeus often assumed the role of the enforcer of justice in his relationship with human sinners and with benefactors of mankind. Prometheus, who represented the interests of mortals, provoked the enmity of Zeus repeatedly. He tricked the god into accepting the inferior portion of sacrificed animals, and stole fire from Mount Olympus which he gave to mortals. Zeus, in turn, commanded Hephaestus to make the first mortal woman, Pandora, who brought with her all the miseries and ills that afflicted society. Zeus also visited retribution upon violators of social and moral codes and divine authority, among which the prime examples are Ixion, Tantalus, Tydeus, and Sisyphus. Like the other Olympians over whom he presided, the mighty chief of Olympus influenced the adult lives of mortals. During the Trojan War, several heroes received the backing up of different gods and goddesses, but Zeus presided over the key turning points in the war. It was Zeus who weighed the fate of the Greek leader Achilles against that of the Trojan hero Hector, and he also prevented Apollo from intervening on Hector's behalf. Zeus became famous not only for his great power, but also for his enormous sexual vigor, and sired a vast number of offspring. Many heroes and heroines of Greek mythology came to being through an incessant parade of goddesses and mortal partners. Among the more notable of his mortal children are Heracles, Perseus, Minos, Amphion and Zethus. He fathered other deities, including Apollo and Artemis through Leto, Hermes through Maia, Persephone and Dionysus by Demeter, and Athena, who emerged in full armor from Zeus's head, and whose mother, the Titaness Metis, was involved in possible threats of power that Zeus had to contend. The god was especially concerned with the pattern of succession that begun with Chronos and Uranus, whereby each son violently usurped his father's throne and was then deposed in turn. In the Hesiod's theogony, Zeus learned from Gaia and Uranus that his wife Metis would bear a second child, a son who would inevitably take him down. He solved this potential threat by ingesting Metis, thus, he succeeded on heading off the threat of succession to which Chronos and Uranus had succumbed. By specifically swallowing Metis, whose name means cleverness or intelligence, he combined strength and wisdom in a single godly entity. His ability for pragmatism became renowned and infallible, and his judgment was beyond criticism. Yet, even so, not too long after he took over the throne of heavens, Zeus had to stand up and defend it. After defeating their rivals Titans, the Olympians still encountered challenges from other enemies. 3 separate attacks were mounted from among the offspring of Gaia, the living earth, who was furious at the downfall of Chronos as well as the imprisonment of the Titans. She felt that Zeus had treated her sons unfairly. Therefore, in order to avenge them, she incited the giants to rebel. First were the Gigantes, which were giants as their name implies. The Gigantomachy then ensued, in which the son of Zeus, Heracles, half mortal and half god, lent his strength to the gods, leading to the defeat of the giants. Then came the monstrous Typhon, the son of Gaia and Tartarus, to whom Zeus had to contend with. The hideous monster was so fierce that its bare sight was enough for the Greek gods to run away scared, and fled to Egypt. But with the assistance of Athena, Zeus stood up to the creature, and engaged a hand-to-hand combat armed with his thunder and lightnings. He struck the monster with his thunderbolts, setting Typhon's many heads on fire, then chased him until a distant mountain. According to the scholar Apollodorus, Typhon cut Zeus's tendons with the god's own adamantine sickle, and imprisoned him in the Coretian cave in Cilicia, guarded by a half-beast and half-maiden dragon. Zeus was rescued by Hermes, who helped reattaching his tendons. Immediately after recovering, Zeus pursued and defeated the monster, pinning him underneath the Mount Etna with his thunderbolts. Finally, the twin giants' brothers called the Elodei attacked, with the attempt to storm out Mount Olympus. They managed to imprison Ares in a bronze jar for 13 months. But as Zeus had done with the Titans, he banished them all to Tartarus. But in the Odyssey, Homer said they were killed by Apollo, and were bound to columns in the underworld by snakes, with the nymph of the Styx watching over them. Overcoming the threats that were set to impede his reign, Zeus's ascendancy was total and complete. Jupiter, the Roman counterpart of Zeus, was the most important god in Roman mythology. He was especially associated with military power and victory. His temple on the Capitoline Hill was the religious center of the city and a symbol of Rome itself. The Roman triumphal procession ended with sacrifice at the Capitoline Temple. Jupiter was worshipped in a temple alongside Juno and Minerva, the counterparts of Hera and Athena respectively. In visual representations, Zeus is depicted as an older, regal and bearded figure holding a scepter and was worshipped throughout Greece. His attributes are the eagle and bolts of lightning, as depicted in the sculpture from his Pergamon altar. His images are found on a variety of media in classical periods such as vases, coins, gems and paintings. Being the dominant god of the Olympian Pantheon, Zeus was both a paternalistic figure and a symbol of ultimate authority. His epithets relate to his various functions and domains. The god was for instance known as Hykasios, protector of suppliants; Horkos, protector of sanctity of oaths; Zenios, protector of hospitality and relations. The chief of Olympus oversaw mankind's life and actions, he saw all things and controlled outcomes within the lot of mortals. The god was especially concerned with the relations among human beings, on which civilization was premised, and which required good faith and justice in areas as hospitality, friendship, relations between humans, and the sanctity of oaths. Zeus became the supreme ruler, and his power was greater than that of all the other divinities altogether. Nevertheless, he was not omnipotent or omniscient either, as he could be deceived and opposed. As mentioned before, Prometheus outsmarted him, Poseidon duped him in the Iliad, and so did Hera. Sometimes too, the mysterious power of fate was spoken of as being stronger than him. Still, even in the earliest record, Zeus had greatness. He demanded not only sacrifices from men but right actions as well. The two perspectives of him, low and high expectations, persisted side by side for a very long time. The breastplate of the god was known far to be the aegis, awful to behold, and his bird was the eagle, his tree the oak, and his oracle at Dodona in the land of the oak trees. The major themes concerning Zeus reflect either his status, his functions, and his many love affairs. He was represented as falling in love with one woman after another, descending to all manner of tricks to hide his infidelity from his wife. In some accounts, the explanations of why such actions were ascribed to the most majestic of the gods was probably because the Zeus of songs and stories that you and I know has been made by combining the features and traits of many gods. Nowadays, the chief of Mount Olympus takes an important place in the modern culture through which he is mentioned within Greek novels, legends and stories surrounding the ancient Greece. Zeus is so popular that whenever the Greek mythology is referred to, the name of the almighty king of the Olympians immediately comes straight to mind. Deserving his irreplaceable status within the myth, not only because of his achievements, but mostly because he's perceived as the founder, the point of transition between the era of chaos governed by the late generations of gods, and the new era of justice ruled by the gods of Olympus. If you've enjoyed the video, please go ahead and leave me a like, comment and share as well. Don't forget to subscribe as it encourages me a lot. Make sure to turn on the bell so you won't miss anything out. And as always, stay curious.